celebrating 16 years of possibility. Pilot Flying J and Halloran Hilton Hill present Anything is Possible. Today's guest, David Francisco, Part 1.
This is Anything is Possible. My name is Halloran Hilton Hill. Thank you for letting me do what I love. Thank you for letting me be myself. This is David Francisco. And I have to say, as we open the show today, that this is going to be an interesting ride for me because he's like a son to me, and he is one of my dearest friends, and this is family. And so come take this journey with us. This is a magnificent story. Thank you for being here.
Of course.
David was told that he probably wouldn't walk again. He was struck by a driver that was texting. He was riding his bike and he was paralyzed, and you weren't going to walk again. The significance of this day, the day on which we're recording this interview, this is 2 years to the day since that accident.
Right.
Take me back 2 years.
So 2 years ago, I had just moved to Nashville, Tennessee. From here, born and raised in Knoxville, but wanted to do music, and specifically an audio engineering school called Blackbird Academy. So moved to Nashville, I was super excited, brought my dog, brought my bike, and I was ready to conquer the world. 3 weeks into class, April 27th, today 2 years ago, I was biking home, and I was at the last intersection, and the light turns green, and I was beside the car in the front. And so we started going, but that car slammed on their brakes because they wanted to avoid what they could see and what I could not see, which was a car running the red light. Basically, I couldn't see it because of this car. It was an SUV, and I got T-boned at about 30, 35 miles an hour. My body went about 100 feet. Someone that I've met since actually told me that they saw my body fly up into the air, and they said 10 feet, so I don't know, I don't remember any of it, but it was a serious impact, and I landed on the road and, had a bunch of injuries, was unconscious. I don't remember any of it.
So you don't remember anything. Do you even remember impact?
No, I don't remember anything about the accident, which I'm thankful for, because I think it would probably kind of freak me out.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you had any, well, if you don't remember, I guess this would be an interesting question. If you don't remember something, can you have post-traumatic stress from it? In order to have PTSD of any sort, do you have to have had an experience that you remember, or does your body remember it, or did your subconscious record it?
Right.
And are you suppressing it because to be conscious of it?
That's a good question. I would say that knowing that I had been hit on the road, the first time I saw a road again, I thought about that, and it was pretty scary. And I was also on Peachtree Street in Atlanta, which is like 3 lanes each way. So I was definitely intimidated when I saw the road. I drive now, it doesn't scare me. And I drive in LA, so I really drive.
Like you really got that.
Yeah.
So if you could imagine that here you are, you're a young person, you've got your whole life ahead of you, and the things that you love, you're active, you were a soccer player.
Right.
Now you're paralyzed, and maybe the life that you've dreamed of is no longer possible. That's where the story starts.
Right.
We'll finish it coming up. You're watching Anything is Possible. This is my friend David Francisco.
Possibility powered by Pilot Flying J, Covenant Health, Home Federal, and the Knoxville News Sentinel. Coming up.
I asked my family and the nurse, and why are my legs not on the bed? Can someone put them on the bed? And they said they are on the bed.
He was paralyzed. They told him it wouldn't be possible for him to walk again. He walked on this, stepped up on this platform and seated himself here. You're going to hear some of his incredible music. This is David Francisco. I'm Halloran Hilton Hill. This is Anything is Possible. So you don't remember anything of the accident. You wake up in the hospital.
Right. Wake up on the hospital bed, and one of the first things I remember is looking down, and actually before I even looked down, thinking, why are my legs not on the bed? And I asked my family and the nurse, and why are my legs not on the bed? Can someone put them on the bed? And they said they are on the bed. And so I looked down, and sure enough, my legs are lying on the bed.
Couldn't feel
But
them.
I just couldn't feel them. Right.
What does it feel like not to feel?
Kind of weird. I mean, I'm sure most people have experienced their arm falling asleep or their leg falling asleep. It's a lot like that. Sometimes I'll wake up and my arm will be totally numb just because I've been sleeping on it wrong or something. It's a lot like that, where it actually kind of freaks you out because it's like, it's there, but I can't move it and I can't feel it. So it's a scary thing for sure.
First thought when you couldn't feel?
Well, first thought was, I'm glad my family's here. Maybe the second thought was, what is my life gonna look like? How am I gonna do the things that I wanted to do? And those would be, be in a relationship and be married someday. How am I gonna do that if I'm in a wheelchair and dependent? Like, who's gonna wanna be with me? Second was walking and playing sports and being active. How can I do that if I'm completely numb from the waist down? And the third would be music. How am I gonna play music, perform music if I'm in a wheelchair? It's just not what I thought it was gonna be. So those are the three things that I thought that I had lost after the accident.
So you felt a deep sense of loss.
Oh yeah.
And I guess it's challenging because we all, my experience is we all are trying to figure out who we are and why we're here, right? And so you have certain giftings or talents or maybe desires that point you in the direction of a dream, but they also frame who you are, not only to the world, but to yourself. So when you take those things away, and if I'm vested in those things,
Right.
who am I without the stuff of dreams?
That was big for me. Like, if I don't have those things, those were a big part of my life. That's what I was going for. And such a sudden change, such an abrupt, hey, everything has changed now. And it's in one moment. I think the suddenness of it is probably the hardest thing to deal with at first, just because there's no time to even slowly process.
Right.
Like
it's
all
just
gone.
all here today.
Yeah.
And it's all gone today.
Yeah.
And you know what? I never thought about how, and you'll have to tell me about this. You're a good kid, right?
Yeah.
You weren't in any trouble. I mean, both parents, Christian upbringing, you found your faith early. You look like that. You look like you're supposed to be on the cover of somebody's Good Kids magazine. And then your legs are literally cut out from under you.
Yeah.
Are you mad at God?
No.
Were you?
I wasn't. I think because I actually never fully believed that everything happened because of God, that he was a part of everything, but not that he was the direct instigator of everything, that it was easy for me to understand that bad things can happen to good people. So for me, something bad in this fallen world had happened to me, a good person, quote unquote, but I never blamed God because I don't think it's his job to keep us from bad things. I mean, there's so many bad things that happen to so many good people that it just doesn't make sense to me. So.
Was there depression?
Oh yeah, I was definitely depressed, cried every day for at least a month. And
Really?
remember thinking, wait, I haven't cried today. Like, that's different. That's cool.
What was the trigger? What were you thinking that brought you to the broken place?
It was the overwhelmingness of every time I tried to do something that I used to do. When I was lying in the hospital bed, it was fine. People would come and visit, we'd talk, it was my friends, it was my family, I felt loved, and that was fine. It was when I started trying to get in the wheelchair and started trying to roll around and my back hurt and my legs couldn't move. And literally it was like sitting on a yoga ball just to try to sit up without a back support. And realizing just functionally the things that I had lost. And then the implications of those things in my life that hit really hard.
What was the pain in your back like when you tried to sit up?
It just felt like extreme soreness. I mean, they did a big surgery, 2 rods and 8 screws back there. So for a long time, I couldn't sit up for more than 10 minutes without just like this kind of pain, And so I would, lie down or find a place that I could get some relief just because it was really painful.
How do you feel right now?
Pretty good. Like a little bit uncomfortable, but honestly, it's like so much better.
This is David Francisco, and you're watching Anything is Possible. We're going to hear some music from you, and then we're going to get back to your story. His story is incredible. If you know anyone that has been through something or that is overcoming something, tell them to watch this story. More in a moment.
Coming up,
I have the heart of a lion. There's a spirit inside of my bones that makes me alive.
So we were kind of knee deep in your story, and you were saying that you cried every day.
Yeah.
You were mourning the loss or the perceived loss of your hopes, dreams, and aspirations.
Right.
Right? And having not yet reconciled it, but then you also have the physical pain of recovery.
Yeah.
So there are 2 types. You've got emotional pain, you've got real physical pain, and the physical pain is confirming the emotional pain.
Right.
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 Did you know you were strong enough to deal with both?
Well, what happened was I learned to turn off the emotional pain. And the emotional pain was caused by thoughts of longevity, like, I'm never gonna blah, or I'm never gonna, do that, or the other thing. Like, once I turned those off and focused on the day and the task at hand, it did become a lot easier. And of course, those thoughts still came up occasionally, but I learned to fight them. And it was an emotional battle, but that helped a lot. And so I could focus on the physical. And another thing that helped was I basically lived in Atlanta for 8 months doing therapy. And, a month in, actually, I had no movement, and I'm sitting in bed one night talking to a friend, and I'm always trying to move my legs because, I want them to move because for 24 years, I had known my legs moving. So sitting in bed, talking to my friend, I'm like, wait, hold on. I think I'm moving my foot. And it was so small that I couldn't even tell. So I called a nurse in, and I'm like, do you mind looking at my phone? My friend's still on the phone because he wants to know. Do you mind looking at my foot? And she looks, and it's like, all right, I'm moving it. Is it? She's like, yeah, just a little. And so then we called my parents in, and we celebrated. And that was the beginning of hope. It was just a little touch of hope. And that was, like I said, about a month in.
They say in the whole science of learned helplessness that when people are in a state of learned helplessness, it's because no hope is present. They don't believe that anything they do could change their circumstances. But if the person has any hope, And I thought about in your circumstance, 1 degree of hope qualifies as
Right.
hope.
Right.
So is that the point at which you decided, I will walk again? Or is that the point at which you decide, I will live my dreams somehow? I'll have to hack a
Right.
solution, but there
Right.
will be a solution.
It's funny because I had studied engineering in school, and I think it actually helped me quite a bit because I gained an ability to problem solve. And so I started using that towards occupational therapy, trying to learn to, like I said, just transfer into a wheelchair or transfer into a car. And I think it became really useful. At that point, I didn't think about walking. I had, and they had told me to come to terms with life in a wheelchair, and if you could come to terms with that, then anything you got was just icing on the cake. So I was beginning to come to terms with, okay, you know what, the more I go, I'm still alive, I'm learning to live a life in a wheelchair, and my family is still supporting and loving me. But I determined I'm gonna work as hard as I can to see what I get back. And whether that's walking or not, anything helped. Anything, being able to move your feet in bed was incredibly helpful, so you didn't have to use your arms completely to get up and to reach over there and twist your foot like 1/4 of an inch that you wanted it to be for bed. Everything helps at that point. So I just wanted to recover as much as I could. Obviously, I wanted to walk, but even more than that, just I'm gonna work as hard as I can to see what I get back, and I'm gonna try to be in this emotional state where I'm okay with the wheelchair, but I'm equally not okay with the wheelchair.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, a satisfied dissatisfaction kind of,
Yeah, exactly.
So why don't we do this? I want you to play. I want
Okay.
you to play because the music never left you. You may have pressed pause on the music, but the music just said, I'll pause, but I won't stop.
Yeah.
You got a tattoo. Let me see your
Yeah.
tattoo.
Check it out.
It's a lion.
That's right.
And there's the scar from the windshield,
Right.
right? And the lion is facing the scar,
Right.
right? You wrote a song called Lionheart.
Yep.
Do you remember when you wrote it?
Oh gosh, probably about a year after the accident. Yeah. I wrote it it was me kind of saying, this is my response to the accident. This is the accident,
Right.
and this is my response to the accident. And it's this in song form. So, yeah, overcoming and...
All right, so here's what we're gonna do. I want you to hear this incredible song, Lionheart. And then next week on Anything Is Possible, on the next episode, we'll talk about walking again. We'll talk about doing the music. We'll talk about finding love. This really is a story of possibility. In fact, this ought to be a movie. This is Anything Is Possible. Check this out. We'll see you next week.
I have the heart of a lion. There's a spirit inside of my bones that makes me alive. I have a fighting desire. When the darkness is closing in, I'll be the light. Somehow when everything's wrong, I know I'll be alright. Just when my faith is gone, hope will arise. Somehow when I can move on, I find the strength to survive. 'Cause I have a lion heart. I may seem weak to the world. I may never be fast or strong as I wanna be. But I am a runner on the inside. Oh, and no one can stop me now. I'm on is gone, hope will rise. Somehow when I can move on, I find the strength to survive. 'Cause I have a lion heart. Hey! Oh, you can do more than you know. Yeah, you can do anything, anything is possible. You can do more than you know. Do you believe? Oh, you can do more than you know. Yeah, you can do anything, anything is possible. You can do more than you know. Do you believe? Oh, yeah. 'Cause you have the heart of a lion. There is courage inside of your bones. Don't you believe?